Hello and welcome back to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. I'm your host, Sandy Lowries, and the Good Girl Confessional podcast is proudly brought to you by WB40 or Women Beyond 40 magazine, available now in both digital and print. Today in the Confessional, I am super excited to be chatting to our very special guest, Adalita. Adalita is synonymous with the Australian music industry. She is a powerhouse of rock and roll. She's had an extraordinary solo career herself, but she has also had an extraordinary career being the front woman and lead singer for iconic Australian band Magic Dirt. I can't wait for you to listen to this podcast. I know you're going to love her as much as I do. She's down to earth and brilliant. Welcome, Adalita. Hello and welcome to the Confessional. Adalita, how are you?
I'm good, Sandy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I was just saying, I know how busy you are. So you've got tour dates coming up, which we'll put down below also when we release this. But I'm super excited to be chatting with you today.
Oh, me too. Thanks for having me. It's always really nice to connect and talk about myself. I'm really excited for today. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Oh, that's so cool because I really wanted to have you on. I've sort of been wanting to reach out to you for a while. I'm a huge fan of your music, and I think so many people are, obviously. I think you are so synonymous with Australian music and the industry. So I wanted to really have a chat with you about how it all started, where it is now, and all the cool things that have happened to you in between.
Oh, so much.
So much.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start with when did you first get into music?
It was probably around the age of 17 or 18, just after high school and as I was entering uni. So I just kind of, it came out of nowhere really, Sandy. Like I just was walking past a music shop in Melbourne. I can remember it really clearly, and I just got obsessed with buying an acoustic guitar and forced my mum to buy it for me. It was like a $90 acoustic. And for some reason, I was obsessed with learning how to play guitar. I really don't know where it came from. I never had any ambitions to be a musician or, never I just didn't think about that at all. So it literally came out of nowhere. And I bought a how to learn rhythm guitar book and then went home and just holed myself away in my bedroom and just obsessively learned how to play the guitar. It was really hard at the start. I had to press my fingers down and I just really wanted to learn rhythm guitar, and I sort of had an aptitude for it pretty quickly, although the fretting part was hard. That took probably about 6 months to get calluses and get it right. And yeah, I just got fixated like I do with a few things in my life. I get quite fixated, and once I just sort of instinctively or from the heart, if I connect to something, I'm just all in, and it's kind of exhausting in a good way. Like I just get obsessed. So that was my obsession at that time.
Which is pretty amazing because you've gone on to be, an extraordinary guitarist, obviously, amongst
Oh,
other
thanks.
things.
I'm all right. I'm not sure about. Yeah, I'm all right. But thank you. That's really nice. I mean, I do have my style. I do have a style, and I've been told I'm a really good guitarist, and I think I've got a unique style, I guess, and have my own sound and stuff. And I definitely don't do things by the book. So literally, because when I learned guitar from that rhythm guitar book, the how-to book, it got up to some trickier chords, and I just shut the book and put it down. It's like it's too hard. I'll just make up my own stuff. So I guess I've always been a bit, just do it my way. Yeah, and then I was writing. So that was the guitar part. So after the acoustic, I just picked up an electric. I was like, oh, electric guitar, maybe I'll go to that. And it was much easier to fret on an electric guitar. And I had no one around me. That knew about music or was a musician. I was on my own, just exploring this new world. And went to the local guitar shop, bought at the time, an Angus Young AC/DC, guitar. The SG Gibson is the Angus Young guitar. I didn't know. Now I know. and bought that, bought a little amp, and then just kept playing. I just loved the sound of distorted guitar, and it was so much fun. It was really fun. And then I put some lyrics to the music. I started making up my own song chord progressions, and I had a lot of poetry. So I'd written poetry, as lots of little girls do from a very young age. I was writing a lot. So I was always writing a lot. And then just put the poems and cherry picked my favorite lines and whooshed them together and made little songs and recorded it on the cassette, as we did.
As we did back in the day.
Back in the day. So back in the day, a long time ago. And then I met one of the founding members of Magic Dirt, and a very dear friend and my mentor in a way. And he discovered me in a way. And we had a deep friendship from the word go. And he heard my cassettes and he went, oh my God, like, this is gold. Like, we need to start a band. And that's what happened. And it wasn't long after Magic Dirt were pretty much in full flight. Like, it didn't take long. We did a few gigs. We jammed a lot, though, behind the scenes. But a few gigs, and we were supporting international bands like Sonic Youth and, you know, Dinosaur Jr., Beck, blah, blah. And it just took off.
Wow,
You know,
which is pretty cool, because you two guys, so you're obviously talking about Dean Turner. So yes, so we'll mention. Is that okay to mention his name?
yes, sorry, I didn't even say it. Dean, of course. Dean
That's all
Turner.
right,
Yes,
because
of course.
you know him. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we can talk about Dean.
Beautiful.
Of course.
Yeah, because it's important, because, as you say, through meeting him, your musical career really started, because you guys were two young kids basically in Geelong when all of this started, right?
Yeah, very young, and we both loved music. I was starting to really get into alternative music, you know, as I was entering uni, you know, and Dean knew a bit more about music than I'd, or had a bigger record collection, and introduced me to a lot of great bands. So yeah, just very young and just hanging out with the skaters, the surfers, you know, just listening to alternative music, going to the local pub where we had a big music scene in Geelong, the Barwon Club. That was a real breeding ground for a lot of punk rock, and one of the great music towns of the world, I would say. Geelong has been and is, you know, such an important piece of the music puzzle. You know, a lot of great bands have come out of there, and a lot of great music that's supported other bands. You know, just a great scene. So yeah, we sort of grew up in that melting pot of punk rock and sort of I guess and all types of alternative, you know, music. So yeah, and then just, yeah, we shared a really deep bond, and if it wasn't for him, yeah, I wouldn't be here today, like, at all. Like, he did a lot for me. Yeah.
Quite extraordinary. And you guys did, sorry, excuse me for, I'm just looking at here, something
Yeah.
saying something. I just want to make sure nothing's, interrupted. Sorry, I'll edit that out.
No, that's okay.
But you guys have done so much for the Australian music scene and the landscape of what that looked like. Because for me, you know, because we're you know, I'm a little bit older than you, but I was first, you know, fell in love with Magic Dirt, you know, back in the 90s, and I was somebody who really gravitated towards punk bands, and it was really cool to have, you know, a Victorian kind of band that came out of that scene that I was definitely in love with. And I remember going to see you guys, and you were supporting Dinosaur Jr., who I was mad for. So, you know, later on, and I think that's really cool. As you say, so that was one of the things I was going to talk to you about. You guys have supported so many bands, but worked with so many incredible kind of musos over the years, from everything from, you know, Big Day Out, and right now still doing, you know, Day on the Green. These are huge events, and you've worked with huge people. So, do you have favourites that you've worked with in terms of Australian acts or international acts?
Get asked this a lot. I always draw a blank because there's just so many. Yeah, I mean, like you said, supporting Dinosaur Jr. was a huge, like, that was huge because, you know, we were such fans and have all their records and love Jay Mascis and Lou and, you know, love them all. Yeah, so that was pretty huge supporting them. And I supported Jay Mascis on one of my in my solo sort of, you know, format. Not that, yeah, like maybe a few years ago I supported him around the country, and yeah, that was amazing too. So yeah, that was huge. Just, you know, supporting Queens of the Stone Age and Sonic Youth and John Spencer, Blues Explosion, and then very early on Pavement. They were actually really lovely. They were really nice guys, so down to earth, and I have a really soft spot for those guys because they were they were really kind and just hung out with us and were really interested in us, and just really nice guys, you know, really nice to hang out with. And I love that connection. It felt, yeah, very warm and fuzzy with them. I think like it's surprising, like some of the stars that you meet, you know, some of your idols, you know, it's surprising how down to earth they are and how nice they are, because you can easily be intimidated by people like that because they are so good at what they do, and they're so famous and they're so iconic, you know, that you sort of hold them up there and you can't quite see them as human sometimes. Well, I get too starstruck, I guess, but I've learnt in time that they're just people like everybody else. So, you know, for instance, we were next door neighbours. It was a big day out, I'm pretty sure. We were next door neighbours with Iggy Pop.
Oh, wow.
With our trailers, yeah. And Iggy is just up there for me. He's like one of in my top 5 like favourite musicians ever. I know. Hello. How much do we love Iggy? He's the best. Have you seen that doco, that really amazing documentary on him? And then he listens to his own music and he's like, yeah, man, that's really cool.
But I love that. Like, I love that he's just like, yeah, like,
yeah.
I'm the bomb. And I've been watching occasionally these clips come up of him with his he's got a cockatoo, and I don't know if you've seen those. And
no, and what now?
Yeah, he plays like punk music and the cockatoo goes crazy, like it dances. It's brilliant. It's so great.
Oh my God, I need to check that out. He's just so, he surprises you. He's just, yeah. So Iggy, we just seeing him backstage, and he just didn't, he was so nice. He had such a nice, friendly, you know, energy. Like he just wasn't pretentious or weird or anything like that.
That's so lovely to hear, isn't it? Because sometimes it's really scary to me, you know, when you kind of have this idea in your head of who they're going to be.
Oh.
And it's terrifying to think, oh, what if I meet them and they're rubbish, you know? Like,
yeah, no. Look, I mean, I get it. Like a lot of famous people, like I get it, like that they're just, they need space because there's so much pressure on them and everybody wants a piece of them, and they would get a lot of trolling as well. So I get it. But yeah, I mean, oh my God, yeah, just support. I just can't believe, yeah, the amount of famous people we've supported and hung out with and shared trailers with and rubbed shoulders with and shared a spa backstage at Big Day Out with and been at after parties with. The list goes, it's a long list, you know, and we're just, yeah. But I guess Magic Dirt's the type of band, we're the same. We're really down to earth, friendly, welcome anyone, just ourselves, like, you know, but when we get up on the stage, we transform, you know. But off stage, we're just like everybody else, and we love having a good time and having a drink and hanging out. And Australian bands, like you asked about Australia, what are some of our favourite Australian bands? Like Tumbleweed mates, Screamfeeder mates, you know, Midget from Sydney mates, like so many bands we grew up together with and did a lot of support. Jebediah, you know, and we have a lot of great memories and connections and deep bonds with these bands, and there's so many. Like I'm just getting goosebumps talking about it, like still being here today. And we've just been doing the Spring Loaded Festival national tour, which is currently postponed because of everything that's going on. But that's the sort of a 90s fest, sort of like a home bakey kind of vibe with all Aussie acts and from the 90s, and you know, we're all out there, every fucking Tom, Dick and Harry, you know, we're out there in the audience loving it. So, Tom, Dick and Harriet. Yeah,
Harriet,
so, yeah. Sorry for swearing. So yeah, you know,
Swearing is allowed in the confessional.
uh,
It's fine.
oh, okay, I got such a sailor's mouth. Oh God. Yeah, but you know, there's bands that I wish we got the chance to support, like Nirvana,
Yeah.
or hang out or meet Kurt. Like that would have been. That's one thing I really missed out on. I would
But
have loved
speaking
to
of,
have met.
but you did get to support Hole, which is pretty
Yes,
incredible. So what was that
yeah,
experience like?
it was amazing, so amazing. Yeah, like she was such a huge star. I mean, she still is, and just to be in the presence of that band at that time. Like, I'm pretty sure it was when Kurt had already passed away and we did the national tour. So yeah, she was under a lot of pressure and it was insane, just insane. The vibe in the room, everyone was just going mental for them. And we really felt like we were the support band in the way that we were supporting them, like in morale wise, and we wanted to do our best because it was such a hard time for her. And so, and they were lovely, and the whole crew were really nice, and it was a huge feather in our cap, you know. But yeah, 6 degrees of separation. It's quite close to
Quite
Kurt.
close.
So.
But it's like at that time too, I'm sure that, as you say, like Courtney Love just had this kind of spotlight on her, not necessarily for all the right reasons. And it must have been such a tough kind of thing to go through in losing a partner and to have the media, constantly on her. But I've heard other reports as well. So a friend of mine is a drummer who's in a band called O Kamikaze, but back in the day was in a girls punk band who got to play at a venue, and she was there. I think they did play, and she said she was just incredibly supportive and
Mm,
lovely, and
mm.
raw and real. And she said, "What you see is what you get."
Yeah, she's a real force. Like, yeah, real, and yeah, there was just it was intense, all the media stuff and all of that. And but you know, there is also that element of that real like just the fame and the Hollywoodness of it all was also really intoxicating to be around and be part of. Like it was like we were pretty wide eyed and innocent, like but down to earth. So we didn't engage with the negative side of it, but we took in that other aspect because Americans are like they're larger than life, like and they're really good at putting on a live show and really good at publicity and really good at they're really confident and they have this way about them that's really it is really mesmerizing and quite inspiring. um, so that was really great to be around.
It's so
Yeah.
true though, isn't it? Because Australia, I think our very nature and how we're raised basically is that, this whole tall poppy syndrome is that you don't kind of beat your own drum. We're not, I think it's taken a long time for Australians to kind of hit the mark overseas in terms of music. Well, it has been a long time, but in terms of promoting themselves, and saying, yeah, what I do is fantastic. I think it's a difficult gig for a lot of Australians to say that about themselves.
Yeah, look, I think there's a positive and a negative aspect to that there's definitely that tall poppy thing, which I think is an extreme version or the negative version of just check yourself, just don't get too big for your boots, which yeah is shit. Like I hate the tall poppy syndrome, but if you wind it back and you go to the sort of the other end of it, I'm sort of getting all zen here. I'm trying to, but it's like I think the positive aspect of the way Aussies are in our arts and culture, and well, let's just talk about my area, which is bands and live bands. I think Australians also do it better than anybody else in some aspects. Like we're very authentic. We're very down to earth. We don't get too big for our boots. We don't overstretch. It's that working class kind of, and what you see is what you get. It's really raw. We work really hard, and not saying that other cultures don't, but yeah, we just particularly excel, I think, in just no frills,
Yeah.
And Australians, I've noticed that when we toured overseas, and a lot of people, like Americans, would say the same thing, and the British. Well, that's the main cultures I mix with in music. Say the same thing is that Australian bands kick ass live, like really, and we do. I've noticed, and everybody says it, and it's very true. We go hard, we really do, and that's all we do. So I guess we're not as much. Well, the bands at our level are not so much into the look, like, let's get the lighting right, let's make sure the publicity is really good. Although we do care, and we put care into it, and we want to represent ourselves well. But it's like, if you don't have the live show, then you got nothing. Like, so you've got to be good at that. And Aussies have that. We have this, what is it? It's like the Americans in the film industry, they love working with Aussie actors, right?
Yeah, true.
And I think, yeah, because they work hard, they're pretty easy to get along with. They'll just go for it. They're friendly, and they don't have really, I guess, those. It's just different with expectations and how we present ourselves. And yeah, so I think that's across the board with Aussies, where
I'm going to
yeah,
say for myself as a fan of music, that going to see live music in Australia at live music venues is one of the great joys of my life, right? I think you're right. I think there is a real honesty to it, that you walk in the room and you're kind of, the whole crowd's together and everybody's like, we just kind of revere it, sweat coming off the stage and all the things, like, it's just brilliant. And I do think it's a really good, you know, it's a fantastic live scene, probably all around Australia. I know it's like definitely in Melbourne. There's a big live music scene. How have you been impacted though by COVID? Because it's really impacted everyone in the arts.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the fact that everyone's been affected by it in the whole world, it affects everybody. So I guess we realise how connected we all are and how interdependent we all are. So once the community gets affected, then the musicians get affected. But then we have our own special set of challenges in our corner, which, yeah, I think we were the first ones affected, along with, anyone in who uses, live venues like sports or theatre, but we're talking about the arts, sorry. So yeah, I mean, we were the first affected, and we'll be the last to, you know, get back to any kind of normality. So we've got a long way to go with touring. So yeah, it's been deeply affected. People have lost gigs. I have been fortunate where pretty much all my gigs have been postponed. So they're still going ahead, but some of them have even been postponed to next year. So at the moment, I'm okay because I've been good with savings and stuff like that. And then I was able to get JobKeeper last year, so a lot of musicians and were able to get JobKeeper and grants as well. So that was really good. But it's more the next couple of years, like, or even next year, like, if gigs really do dry up, then we're just gonna have to look for another job in the meantime. I mean, that's just what you just do what you have to do to survive. But yeah, everything's been disrupted. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
for
we just
sure.
took it for granted. You could just book tours, and it's all about booking ahead and planning. And there's no way you can do that now without big problems, massive problems. Yeah, it's a massive disruption. It's completely turned upside down. Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
yeah,
And it's it's kind of devastating, for so many people, musos, especially actors, everyone, right? It's a
hunters.
big, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, it's difficult. And so I wanted to chat about though how different things, like how different the Australian music industry is now compared to say when you started out. Because starting out in Geelong, I remember reading this article. I can't remember who you were speaking to, maybe Sydney Morning Herald or someone, but talking about getting beer cans hurtled at you on stage, and that was just part of like initiation back in the day compared
Yeah.
to like now. How different is
Love
it?
the beer cans. Yeah, was a way to say you're good. We like ya. Here's a beer can in the head.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That was
wow.
funny. That was fun. Yeah. Um, so what the question was, how is it different now, like playing live?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Laverton and there was like a live gig, and I remember going to see the Angels, and I saw, who else did I see there? Jimmy Barnes probably, and Midnight Oil and whatever. It was a working class kind of pub and it was a live music venue and it was rough, you know, like
Yeah.
sticky carpet, but rough, you know, sweat
Yeah.
coming off the stage and people throwing bottles. And there was a kind of a point where you go, all right, we should leave now. And I think we were underage at the top for a lot of that. So it was like, best get out of there. But yeah, it was pretty
Yeah.
rough. So what was
Yeah.
Geelong like back in the day?
Sorry, what was that last bit?
So what was Geelong like?
Oh, back in the day, what was it
Yeah.
like? Yeah, same. It was pretty rough. Like the Barwon Club, which was the the punk rock venue, that had music pretty much every night, for years and years and years. It was a bikie pub, I believe, prior, like in that maybe 70s or 80s. It was a bikie pub, pretty rough. And then, so the pub split into a front bar where all the working class, all the tradies would go and have their beers after work. And on the weekends, it would be mental in the front bar. But then there was the back bit, which was you went through a portal and you entered this band room that was just really understated, like just carpet, a stage, a pool table, some, little round tables and toilets, whatever. And that was it, but that's where the magic happened. Like it just transformed at night and you'd get amazing local bands and international bands would rock up and play there. It was the place to play, Destroy All Monsters, Dinosaur Jr., Mudhoney. I mean, the Barwon Club was the place to be. So, but then every other night you just have local bands, really young bands getting up playing, and we pretty much all knew each other, so we just play to each other, and that was the audience, mates, and then you get your sort of skinhead punks, and then you get your like me, my in my geeky sort of pre-grunge cardigan, glasses, and then you'd get all the kids in between that liked all sorts of different music and all different bands, And so the real hardcore punks, that were into like Black Flag and, Gigi Allen and all that sort of stuff, like they'd watch, my band, who was sort of like, and they'd call us hippies and sort of like, oh, that hippie music, it's all right. Then they'd go, it's all right. And we'd like, oh, cool, the punks like this, it's like, oh, cool. So it was really supportive, even so I was never scared of those guys because they were really just teddy bears underneath. They were really nice, And I'm talking about skinheads, I'm not talking about
I know what you mean.
I'm talking about just punk skinhead kids who were totally not into, racism and all that stuff. All the kids that went there were awesome and, hung out together and got to know each other and were really supportive, and it was a really nurturing environment. So yeah, I mean, but we'd throw stuff. I don't think I ever threw stuff, but you'd get a beer can, not a full one, but yeah, just at your feet or something.
You don't want to waste the beer. Come on.
Don't want to waste the beer. That's right. Yeah. So it was great, and I think the carpet was pretty sticky there too.
Oh yeah.
So,
I think still now, even like the live music venues that are still in there, hanging in there, because there's a lot of them, unfortunately, that have closed. They're still sticky carpet. I think that's kind of just always takes me back. I love it. I kind of go. So the last time I saw you live was actually 2000, right before the lockdown, the first lockdown. So I think it was like 2019 at John Curtin, and you were there doing a fundraiser. It was a Bob Brown Foundation fundraiser, I think. I can't remember. I just bought tickets because I like the music. That I just wanted to see you guys. Took my partner along, and you were loud. It was great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was pretty loud up there. It was
loud.
Really loud. Yeah, we play pretty loud. Yeah.
It's that venue.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, maybe I need to turn it down a little.
No, don't. It was great. It was fantastic.
Thanks for coming.
I love it. But when we were there, the really interesting, and I guess why I brought that particular gig up is not because I was there, but because you really are interested and you are into conservationism, and I wanted to, and I guess that was part of the Bob Brown Foundation fundraiser or whatever. And I just wanted to ask, how did you get into that, or what led you down that path?
Well, I've always been a conservationist and animal rights advocate since I can remember. I've always loved nature. And, you know, my ears always prick up when I hear about threats to the wilderness or, you know, eco-sensitive areas. And I just want to preserve the planet and look after it. And I love nature, and, you know, who doesn't love greenery and the ocean and, you know, a beautiful spring day, you know, that's all brought to you by nature. So have to look after it. And you know, animals, I've always loved animals and always felt, you know, very drawn to animals. And I think, you know, there's such an anthropocentric sort of view from a big portion of society, you know, which I think is detrimental to the planet. I think, you know, humans can't see themselves as being above all else and just trashing everything and abusing animals. There's a lot of abuses happening out there. So I guess want to kind of bring awareness to it, shine a light on things that are kept in the dark. You know, there's a lot of things people don't see and don't want to see, but I think we have to see them, have to know about them, educate ourselves. So yeah, and I particularly love the Bob Brown Foundation because they're so good at what they do. They've been doing it for years, and I love Bob. I've always loved Bob Brown. He's a legend. Magic Dirt met him in the early 2000s. We did a supportive kind of show down in Tassie in the forest there, when the greens were really when Bob was in the Greens. So I went down there and met him, got a photo taken with him, ended up in his book, so that was nice. But yeah, they do great stuff, and I'm really supportive of them. And I just want to do all I can to save what we have left. Yeah, you know, it's
And it's
because
important.
once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to bring back. And I'm reading a great book at the moment by an eco-feminist, Jane Caputi, or Caputi, an American professor. It's called Call Your Mother. And she talks about that very thing, you know, anthropocentric sort of, she talks about how nature, if you treat it like rubbish, that it's going to start withdrawing its support mechanism. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening. It's sending out warning signals. And if we don't, then it's that our life support is going to be switched off at some point pretty quickly. So I think we all have to step up, you know. And I think a lot of people, I feel, I could be wrong, but I feel the majority of people really care and really want to help. And it's exhausting because there's so much going on. But there's a lot of people doing a lot of great work, and I think we have to remember that in amongst the doom and gloom, that because we tend to only see most of the doom and gloom because that makes the headlines. But there's actually, I think, a lot more great stuff happening that we just don't get to see a lot of. But, or maybe we do. But yeah, there's a lot of people working really hard, and I think most people there's a lot of hope. I do. I think, yeah, we can make a change.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think where people get really bummed out, I guess, is having, you know, governments, you know, I think people at the cellular level, you know, understand that this planet needs to sustain us. And so therefore we have to support the planet and sustain the planet. But it is difficult, you know, when we have governments, you know, our own and others around the world who, you know, are still talking about bloody fossil fuel and whatever.
Yeah.
And they're not really, they don't embrace that there is an issue, let alone want to do anything about it. So, as you say, people like Bob Brown and the Greens, you know, there's some amazing work sort of going on with the Greens and all that they do, and other people as well. And you're right. I think it's and I'm glad you raised that because it's important to have that hope as well. Like it's not an impossible situation; it's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've all got to just do our bit, right?
Yeah, that's right. No, there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of great stuff going on. We have to remember that. Yeah, and a lot of great new technologies and really people in really high places who are doing great stuff and really progressive stuff. So yeah, we have to remember that. And I've got a good feeling. I've got a good feeling.
Oh, good. I do too. I always I'm the eternal optimist. I always think when, you know, but when you meet some good people doing good things, you have to believe that good stuff might happen, right? So
Absolutely.
I think it's so important. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about, I read somewhere that when you were young, you were like the Stedford girl. Like you used to do a Stedfords and things.
Yeah.
And I laughed because so did I. I remember I remember being involved in was it Eon FM, Rocker Stedford back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in that a couple of years. Woo. Um,
That's awesome.
but I want to touch on that because I wanted to talk to you about your appearance, you know, in the Green Day musical um, at the Sydney Opera House. So tell me about that. How did that come about?
That nearly didn't come about. I got approached by Shake and Stir theatre company who put on American Idiot, um, and I thought I can't do that. That's too scary, you know. Which is funny because I grew up doing musical theatre. Um, I was in an amateur theatre company in Geelong, who put on musicals like Guys and Dolls, you know, Anything Goes, those big musicals, and I was always like in the chorus. So I never a leading part or anything like that. I was more usually dancing and singing, yeah, in the chorus, even a bit of tap, you know. And at school, yes, I participated in Rocker Stedfords. I just loved performing, so any chance that came up, you know, I would do, you know, lunchtime concerts, you know, anything like that. And yeah, I choreographed and directed one of the Rocker Stedford entries from my school one year. Yeah, myself and a friend of mine, Esther.
That
Thanks,
is
Esther.
so awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it was great fun. I just loved doing that stuff. And that's sort of where the songwriting part of music is. I can see the thread with doing a Rocker Stedford or, you know, and I'd make puppet shows at home, you know, make my own puppet. So anything to, like, I loved conjuring something out of nothing. Like, I think that's at the core of why I love doing what I do, because it's like making a baby. It's like, where does it come from? And we know where it comes from, but do you know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah.
you keep going back and you keep going back and you think about it and you go nuts thinking about it. And for me, it's the same thing. Like, you're giving birth to something out of nothing. Like, it's like genie. Like, where does it come from? Okay, yeah, your brain and neurons, blah blah blah. You can get all scientific, but it's like quantum physics. It's like, just keep thinking about it though, guys. Just for a minute, just keep thinking about it and try and go back as far as you can to go, where did it come from? That's when you go nuts. So, but I really feel that in my gut, in my heart, in my core, like, physically, that feeling, I can feel it. Like, I'm just making something out of nothing. So whether it be a Rocker Stedford, a baby, you know, songs, you know, it's the same feeling. So anyway, getting back to American Idiot, yeah, so initially I think I said no. I think I said, oh, I think I'll have to pass to my agent. Oh, I don't know, no. And then I sort of had to think about it. I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is a great chance. And anyway, I changed my mind. For some reason, I thought, I guess there's that thing of like, oh, I'll do something that's risky. There's a sort of an exciting element to it. So I love a challenge. So I was like, no, I'll do this. I'll confront my fear. I think that's what I was thinking. Just confront your fear. Anyway, and then luckily they said, oh yeah, no, come on board. Yeah, definitely come on board. We'd love to have you. So it just went from there. But it was one of the scariest things I've ever done, ever. Like, it was so scary. It was a whole different ball game to playing live music and doing what I do, because I can, that's second nature. I don't have to think about it. But for this show, American Idiot, had to rehearse and learn all these other songs, and theatre's different. You have to be really no self-consciousness at all, and I'm miss self-conscious, not all the time, but you know. Anyway, so yeah, and you have to turn into a character, you know. So that was hard work, but it was great. The guys were great to work with, and great songs, and learnt a lot from it, you know. And now I know I could probably do that again. now that I've done it. So
That
yeah,
is
I
so
just like
cool.
saying yes to a lot of stuff, and trying it out.
It's just so cool, but it's also really fun, and fun that, fancy, I remember when I first heard about it going, oh, there was a musical that was going to be based on, Green Day like songs, American Idiot, and then the people that they had in it in the States, and then the people that they had here in Australia. And I remember hearing you were in it, and I was like, wait, what? Like, I just thought that was just epic. It's very exciting because it is so different from what we're used to seeing you do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was very different, but I got some great feedback and a couple of some new fans who hadn't heard of me, and then now have been coming to my solo shows and Magic Dirt stuff. So, and I always think from a cold-blooded kind of PR or career perspective, I guess it's not that cold-blooded. It's pretty normal. I mean, it's good to do as much stuff as you can and you feel comfortable with to gain new fans. You got to keep refreshing. You got to keep getting some more fans on board. And that's one thought I always have is like, oh, maybe I'll get some new fans. That's a good thing to do.
And you did.
So yeah, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's really so. Yeah, you just sort of expand your audience. Yeah, and I think that's really important. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic, and I think as a creative, I mean, clearly you're a born creative because, as you said, from the moment you could do
Yeah.
things, you were doing things, and creative, and that imagination is quite an extraordinary gift. I think that that is something that creatives really are thrilled when they have it. Like as you say, it is creating stuff out of nothing. I mean, for myself as a writer and creating a magazine out of nothing and whatever, is the same thing, right? You just kind of go, well, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to do it and I'm going to figure out a way to do it. And I think a lot of creatives, you touched on it before, get really quite obsessive with certain things. Like you start on a project and then you go, I can't let it go. I'm like a dog with a bone now. And obviously, you learning music was exactly like that. But I want to talk too about this journey that happened with Magic Dirt because, yes, it launched your career and you guys are iconic and it's amazing and it's brilliant. And at some point, you brought out solo stuff, which, by the way, we should say that you were nominated so many times for your solo stuff and you actually won awards for your first solo album. Um, and you've continued to create solo music all the way through, which is incredible. Um, and then, so tell us about Magic Dirt basically came to a halt, I guess, at because tragically Dean died from cancer. And so how was that for the band and trying to kind of piece yourself together, I guess, or figure out what's your next move? How do you move on from something like that?
Yeah, well, we didn't, when Dean passed, it was August 2009. He had battled a very rare form of cancer. Only like 5% of the population get it, and only like 1 or 2% die from it. So it was, yeah, it was beyond tragic. He was only 37. Yeah, and he was just the best dude, such a cool dude, and so stoic. Like, just never complained, and just and he was gigging as much as he could right up until the end. We had to do a tour without him. We got a replacement, a friend of ours, to play bass for a big tour we had for our last record that we did together. And Dean couldn't do it, but then he came back and he did a couple of live shows with us. Not long after that he passed, and he also did stuff like get us in the studio to record a bunch of stuff, re-record some stuff. He just had good foresight, and luckily we have those recordings now. And he just wanted to work, and he worked on my first solo record. He produced it with me. It was his suggestion to do it. He was like, you got to do this solo stuff. I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. All right. So he was really encouraging of that and spearheaded that whole process. So I wouldn't be here doing this. There's no way the solo thing would have happened without Dean. Yeah, so when he passed, yeah, it was just, to this day, it's still such a shock. It's still so weird. And yeah, it was, I think it was just a huge shock. I think it took a long time for it to process, because he was so young and he was such a big part of everything. So we lost our everything really. And so the band, we didn't even think about the band at that point. We didn't think about the music or the band or anything. It was all about, oh, we've lost him. We lost our mate. Well, there's nothing else to do now but mourn, you know, see you later, you know. So, yeah, we didn't think about the band for a very long time, like many years, you know. We didn't have any socials accounts. I think we might have had a Facebook or something, but, you know, there was no posting, there was nothing. It was just, yeah. But people, I guess, so yeah, you know, it's a very hard time for everybody personally, and yeah, the music just died, you know. Yeah, so, but people would, after a little while, they, you know, we'd get approached to do shows, and so people still loved the band, and, you know, they missed the band, and that was really nice to hear, and really nice to get the offers, but we just didn't feel like playing or anything like that, not even a Skerrick. And then 2018, so the Barwon Club was changing hands, and the original owner and godfather, Greg Dodds, who was, yeah, he was our godfather of punk rock. For 30 years, he looked after the Barwon Club and would put bands on, and he nurtured us. He was our man there. He would let anybody play, and he was a super lovely guy, salt of the earth, love him. He was leaving, and he had a going away party, and someone approached the band to play because we were one of his favourite bands. And we said, yeah, of course, you know. So that was our first show back, which seems, you know, quite apt to be playing at the Barwon Club where we first started. And you know, Dean would have wanted us to do it. Everything we do, we think, and we say, oh, Dean would want us to do this. You know, he'd be encouraging and proud. And anyway, did that show, and that just, I guess that kind of sparked a reunion. And it's so weird, life's so weird. You just roll with the punches and you go with the flow, and that's what happened. I think after a few months after doing that show, we got approached to do a very big run of shows, and we were like, let's do it. It's time. Let's do it. It feels right. I guess that's what we thought. It feels right. But it took a long time to make that decision, because we were very much umming and ahhing, because it still felt weird, and how are we going to do this? Lots of trepidation, lots of fear. But the overriding feeling was, we need to continue the legacy of the band. And there was a lot of stuff that Dean wanted to do and the band still has to do, we realised. So hence, yeah, 2018 or 2019, we were back on the road, and we've also been reissuing a lot of stuff from our Go catalogue, which was our 90s catalogue, which we'd acquired the master rights to, and it was quite a long process to get the master rights back. And Dean was, you know, he was the head of that, and he really wanted that to happen. So we were fulfilling his wishes, his dreams of getting that happening. The whole band wanted it, but he was spearheading that sort of side of things. Anyway, so yeah, so it feels good to be back, and the reaction's been awesome. You know, the fans are loving it, and yeah, they've definitely really missed us, and everyone's really respectful of Dean and Dean's legacy and the band's legacy, and everyone's just supportive. And there's a lot of love. Like, we love our fans, you know, we love hanging out with them. They're the best fans in the world, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of love in it, and it just felt right. We wouldn't have done it if it didn't feel right. And so there's still a lot of stuff to do, and we're really excited by what is yet to come, because we still have a lot of bits of the legacy that need to be fulfilled. Sounds like Lord of the Rings, like the legacy must continue.
Well,
so yeah,
I have to say,
we're on a mission.
It was brilliant, you know. and it is brilliant, as someone who has followed the music all the way through, to see you guys back on the stage and sounding so amazing. And of course, obviously, it changes slightly. It can't ever be the same when, someone is gone. But it is amazing, and it's a beautiful legacy for him and for everything else you guys have created, right? So, so you've been working on new stuff yourself, though, because your solo journey continues as well as a female musician. So so are you writing songs at the moment? Are you recording?
Yeah, so I'm actually just mixing. So I'm down to the last track for the record. So mixing that this week actually. So it's taken a long time to make this record. It's been quite a journey. But the songs were written a long time ago. So 2015, they were pretty much written. I might have written one song in between then and now. But yeah, the recording process was quite long. And I'm producing this record entirely, so sort of had to learn a few things along the way. But yeah, so down to the last song. So hopefully it'll all be completed, I don't know, in the next month, I hope.
That's so
Yeah, but
exciting.
yeah, I know. I can't wait to have it out. It's been a long time.
It's so exciting, and I'm loving that you are producing it yourself, because that's a huge thing. An ex of mine is a producer. I know how big that kind of that can be in and of itself. But you're writing the music, and you're creating the music, and you're recording the music, and now you're a producer. Do you think it will lead you into? Would you be interested in producing and working with other artists? Is that something you could see yourself doing?
Yeah, I have produced things already done a couple of projects in the studio. Worked with a local band, Dark Fair, not that long ago. And I mentor, bands on the side as well. So yeah, definitely as I get older, I want to be the mother hen. I want to sit there and cluck, cluck, cluck away in the background and get cookies and say, that sounds good, and go for it, mate. And oh, what about this? And would you try that? And do it again. No. Yeah, so I love that. Yeah, definitely as I get older, I'd love to kick back and be in that really supportive role with projects, obviously, that, are passion projects, I guess. I've got actually a local Geelong band who there's something in the works there where they want me to help produce their next record. So yeah, that stuff's starting to naturally. I think I'll just do it organically, like whatever works, whatever I feel drawn to. I don't want to force it. I don't want to be like, oh, okay, I want to be a producer now. just stuff that I like. And I don't need the credits. I just want to do stuff I love. Kind of thing. So yeah, whatever makes sense, I'll do it.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful, because it's kind of like full circle then, isn't it? It's like,
yeah.
you being able to mentor, younger people coming through. And that's so important, especially at a time where, the live music industry is being hit hard. It's kind of really cool to encourage younger bands to come through and to keep going, because it's
Yeah.
tough. It can be tough out there.
Oh yeah, so tough, especially now. It's like, because I know touring changed a lot from the 90s to the noughties to right to the recently I get asked that question a lot, like, oh, how does it compare now to when you toured back in the day? Well, a lot's changed, and touring has gradually dwindled, not away, but it's changed, where the younger crew, they don't tour as much. It's not about touring as much because it's not as lucrative as it used to be for younger, smaller bands, like slogging it out on a national tour. Some bands, young bands, still do it because they just love doing it. They don't care about making money. But now it's like touring's almost non-existent. So it's even harder for young bands, I guess, to contemplate a career in music, because how are you going to make money? But there's ways, but the touring side of it, yeah. But yeah, look, I mean, I could learn stuff from younger musicians and artists as well. Like, I love mentoring because I inevitably learn something myself, and I love hanging out with the younger spirits, because yeah, I just lots of different viewpoints and energies and stuff, and I love seeing what's out there, what they're doing, and But sometimes I walk past the younger crew at the pubs and I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, what are they wearing? They look so alien to me. Like, who are these little aliens? Like, I love them, but it's like, and yeah, it's like, ugh. So I'm starting to feel my age, but in the same breath, like, I'd love to just jump in the circle and go, hey guys, what's going on? Like, tell me the latest. Like, what gives? Like,
It is, yeah, it's different. But, it's kind of funny how it's like cross-generational stuff. So my youngest kid just turned 21. My oldest kid's like 30. And they are really, it's funny how we have similar music taste. I mean, they go down different paths and they introduce me to music all the time. Like they're like, send me text messages, Mum, you got to listen to this, check it out. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Great. But I went with my youngest son to see Smith Street Band. Both the boys are like, both, regardless of the age gap, there's like nearly 10 years between them. They both like Smith Street Band, and we went, and Smith Street Band had the Menzingers playing with them. It was another punk band from the US. And it was quite interesting to watch them sort of at that watching that sort of live music, which is music I love, but also seeing how different the crowd is now. Like it's just really funny to kind of go, you're right. I have no idea, what are they wearing. No clue, no clue.
I know. I'm just like, I think the older I get, the more I get like, I just go with it. Like, yeah, I'm older now and I don't get it, but it doesn't mean I have to be all, poo-poo it. Like, oh, I don't get it. I'm not hanging around there. Like, I'm kind of one of those people that's like, I sort of, just sponge everything in, and I'm not good with boundaries. I'm just like, I don't worry about sort of, much. I'm just like, I see just people sort of for the personality rather than all the other things that we're defined by. So yeah, I think the older I get, the more comfortable I get with the divide, or the perceived divide, between the younger and the older generations in music. It's like, it gets more comfortable and I'm more accepting. But it's my own journey with my aging that I'm experiencing in the world. So I guess I'm going to go through phases,
That's true. But the interesting part is that they all still love the music and they all go to the music. So when you end up at a gig where there's people in my age bracket, 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and younger, it's kind of really interesting to watch. The one thing that brings us all together, of course, is the love of the music, right? And all those boundaries fall away. As you say, that perceived sort of crap just falls away because everybody loves the band, right? Or loves the music. So, and that's,
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. And I think about the future. I'm like, I feel like I'm still going to be going to gigs when I'm in my, 50s and 60s. And I'm going to be like, are people going to accept me in the pubs if they see this like craggly old woman like in the pub? Like, what's she doing here? Like, but I think the way society is going, like the younger generation are so like zero tolerant of like any kind of bad vibes. Like, don't put anyone down from it. Be accept. So it's like, I think I'll be all right. Like,
I agree.
I think I'll be accepted. Ageism. That's the next thing.
It's a big thing. I talk about it all the time
Yeah.
on this podcast
Yeah.
and in my magazine, because it's a big deal, right? It does happen.
Yeah.
But I don't really.
Ageism and speciesism.
Yeah, true, right? I agree with that. I don't think it happens as much, though, interestingly, in the arts sector, like music and actors and whatever. People are a lot more open to all different kinds of people, and I love that. And I think, as a creative myself, it's kind of really nice that it's a leveling field, really, to meet people who just want to love the arts.
Yeah.
Even if they're not in the arts, but they go to see the show or they go to watch a band or they whatever it may be, that's the leveler. And I do think music is a leveler. It brings people together.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, it really is. And yeah, I think for me, one of my worries about aging is like just appearance, like, because you get someone like Neil Young, and he's quite old now, but he's still playing music and he's Neil Young and he looks old. But if you get a woman that's that old playing music, are people going to be as accepting? So I do think about, I don't so much, I guess, worry about it, but I do think, because I just think I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I don't really care what anyone says. I'm not going to be defined by any kind of criticism or whatever, non-acceptance. Like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing if that's what I want to do. Like, if I don't want to do music, then I won't do music. But I do think about that, like appearance, like, oh God,
Yeah, well, it
I'm
is
going to look
interesting
old.
because media, around any form of celebrity, can be bloody harsh, right? And so you're right, but like I still see, blondies out there and a whole lot of other female artists who are out there hitting the stage, and they're epic. They're still
Yeah.
amazing, and I kind of think if you love it and you do it, the people will come. I mean, that's how I think, and I guess I'm in my 50s. I'm still going to live gigs, and no one's booted me out yet. So I guess we'll see. But to be a performer on stage, I get that it is something you'd think about. And it's an interesting thing to bring up because you're right. Male musicians, male actors tend not to have to worry about this stuff at all. Like they just
Mm.
don't. And something that, I think is really interesting to explore with you actually, because the Australian music industry, I always think of it as being so different from Hollywood, if you like, and that kind of American scene that you assume everyone's kinder, but in actual fact, the media isn't always kind.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, look, it remains to be seen how I navigate or how things go, like as I age in the industry. As I said, I'm not so worried about it. It's more a curiosity because there's part of me that loves aging and seeing how my face changes and my body changes. And like I really enjoy it. Like I really love it. And I love the wisdom that comes with it. Like that is priceless. And I think it's so spunky. Like wisdom is so spunky. Like,
Sexy,
but
right?
I was looking at, sorry. Yeah.
Wisdom is sexy for
Yeah,
sure.
it really is. Yeah. You just don't give a shit. Like, but yeah, look, I was going to say something and I can't remember. I think, yeah, like that's right. Well, I remember supporting when I'm in my solo format, like supporting Blondie and the Pretenders on a day on the green in like 2011 or something like that. And I'm not sure how old Debbie Harry and Chrissy Hine were at that stage, but I'm, I assume they're kind of in their 60s, maybe
Yep, for sure.
something like that. But they both looked incredible. Um, they definitely look like mature women. Like I'm not saying like because there's this whole thing with beauty. It's like, oh, she looks amazing. Like she's so like skinny or look no light. It's not. I'm not saying they looked amazing in that way. Like with the whole beauty thing, you have to look perfect. I just mean for their age, they looked incredible. Like and also the way they carried themselves. And Debbie Harry was like, she was wearing tiny little shorts, but you can see that she's a woman in her 60s, but she looked amazing still, and she works with what she's got, and she happens to have a really amazing body and face, like she looks
She's epic.
stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like, that's how I want to do it, and how I've always thought of doing it is like, I'm just going to wear and do whatever I want. I'm not going to do it, to rebel on purpose, but I'll just kind of
Just do
just
you.
do what I feel is right for me. Yeah. But I loved that. She was wearing tiny little shorts and just going for it. And she just looked amazing. And that was great to see. Really inspiring,
Yeah.
that there's so many different people in the world and they just do things their own way. And I feel like I'll just do things my way. But yeah, just little things like photo shoots and videos in the future is like, don't get too close with the camera, guys, and can you just light me, can you just put, it's going to be like that. It's when you're young, you don't have to think so much about stuff like that, but
So
obviously
true.
you want to look your best at all times, as
That's
much as
so true.
possible.
Well, the
So
thing is, I mean, you're stunning. I was saying to you
oh,
before we started recording this, you haven't changed. Like, you don't change.
um,
You are just
I
this
do.
rock goddess who who just you really haven't changed. And I think, I love that. And I kind of think that I'm hoping you'll keep just doing whatever you do because I think you're fab. And I do think
See,
it's really important for younger women coming through to actually have those role models like yourself and like you had by being able to support Blondie and or Deborah Harry and being able to support Chrissy Hine. And it's, you know what I mean? It's like it's really important for us to have representation as we get older because if you don't see it, how do you become it if you can't see it?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it's not. I think Nick Cave said a great quote about being a role model, and it's like it's not his place to be a role model; it's his place to be an artist. And
True.
I feel the same. Like it's not my place to be a role model. I didn't. That wasn't my ambition or what I wanted to grow up to be. But if I can just be myself, 100%, and sort of back myself and do what I do, then you know a bonus to that is being a good role model for the younger generation, male, female, whatever your gender identity is, for anyone out there. I'm glad if I can be inspiring. And I actually do love that part of my work is to be that role model or to be inspiring. And because like you said, like that was, I need that. I always need a boost and to be inspired by those that have done it already, and they're a bit wiser and older, and so I'm so glad that I can be that, and be part of a wider support, network with other artists and creatives.
So I wanted to ask you about being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I want to get this right because, so it's the National Live Music Awards Hall of Fame. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so in 2018, we got the call that we'd won. Well, we'd been nominated, and we won the National Live Music Awards Live Legend, which was the highest honour. And we had no idea about these awards, and then when we found out, we're like, oh, well, that's amazing. In 2018, Magic Dirt's been nominated for heaps of arias and so many other awards. So to actually win, so we never won anything, but always nominated. But secretly, it was always good being the underdog, like not winning those big awards. It worked in our favour. But then we actually won this award, and it was so great. We flew up to Brisbane and played a few songs, and then Scream Feeder, Kelly and Tim from Scream Feeder introduced the award and did this great big spiel about us. It was so nice. It was like, and especially coming from those guys. And then we got up to the podium, and it was such an honour, and we finally got to do this big speech. And I remember I was like, shut up everybody, we've got more to come, you just sit down and listen to the whole speech. I think it's
We've
actually
waited
up
a long time to say this damn
on
speech.
exactly, yeah, I think it's up on YouTube somewhere. And Dean would have been so proud, like so proud. It was all for him. And I actually have the award here. It's actually
Yay!
quite a nice
Oh,
award.
wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very shiny and
Is it,
nice. So
is it heavy?
Magic Dirt
Looks heavy.
Live Legend. Yeah, very heavy. Yeah. So
Wow.
inducted into the National Live Music Awards Live Legend. Yeah. Yay,
Yay! And very
finally.
well deserved. So
Yeah,
good for
so
you.
that was a huge deal, massive, and we just felt really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, really nice. Live Legends.
Yay!
Yeah.
And to be like you're a Hall of Famer. Like it's cool. It's really
Yeah, I know. It's a pretty big award to get. Yeah. Yep. So it's at home on the mantelpiece.
congratulations. I think that's epic and bloody well deserved. And as you say, a long time coming. So it's really nice that the whole band was recognised and that Magic Dirt was recognised. And because even though you continue to keep getting out there rocking, the reality is that you've made such a huge impact on the Australian music scene, and that's beautiful that it was recognised.
Thank you.
Yep. And I'm so thrilled that you are still doing it. And it's so lovely that you're about to bring out a new album. I'm super excited. I can't wait for that to come out. And it's fantastic that you are back on the road when you can, COVID permitting, touring with Magic Dirt as well, because there's something quite magical about that as well. But I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast and for sharing all of your hard-won wisdom. You're an epic rock chick, and I'm so thrilled that you could join us here today.
Oh, thanks, Sandy. No, it's been really nice chatting, and Yeah, let's do it again anytime.
Oh, we
Let's
will.
catch up backstage for a drink.
I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, meet in person. Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is brought to you by WB40, Women Beyond 40 magazine. Available now at WB40.com. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to quality podcasts. We're also now available on YouTube. We chat with really interesting women about their hard-won wisdom, but it really helps us if you can subscribe, like, and share the podcast. Thanks so much for your support. Bye for now.